we have a special guest on this episode tonight, Miss Sylvia Hoffman. We are super excited to just interview you. Thank you for jumping on. It's such an honor. Me and Sylvia actually played ball. I know each other. We know each other from basketball back in the day, high school, AAU, all of that. And now you are Olympic, gold medalist.
We got USA
team for a bobsled team. Oh, bronze.
We're speaking that to existence.
Yeah,
it's already bronze. Sorry, yeah. Bronze.
Speaking it to existence.
Speaking to existence. But man, it's just such a blessing. It's such an honor to just be able to interview you, and we just super excited to hear more about your story. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be on with you guys, especially you, man. I haven't seen you in so long, like even like this video. This is like probably our first ever video chat. So this is great. I get to catch up with an old friend and then meet a couple new people. So I'm happy to be here.
Yes, we're glad to have you. So let's just jump right into it. Just tell the viewers, all the listeners just a little bit about yourself, and just get into your story. Just to be in your position. I know it wasn't easy going down that journey, and just tell the viewers just a little bit about your story.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Sylvia Hoffman. I am an Olympic bronze medalist at this past Beijing Olympic Games. I am somewhat of a multi-sport athlete, like Jamie said. I used to play basketball, so multi-sport. I had main sports going up, so I had basketball going all the way through college. I competed in Olympic weightlifting for 8 years, and then I just recently joined the USA bobsled team 4 years ago in 2018. I've had a lot of different adventures in life. I'm also like a college graduate. I like to travel. I like to, see friends and family, but I'm also ambitious and, making my dreams and goals come true. One of those being making an Olympic team. I've always wanted to represent my family, my country, anyone, I always want to represent my country. I always want to wear the USA on my back or my shirt or whatever and just say, hey, you know what, I'm here for Team USA. I also tried to join the military when I was in college, and, that didn't work out. I was a little upset about it, pretty bummed, because I was like, they told me I could do anything I wanted with my scores. And then they said like, well, we can't allow you into the military because you have scoliosis. And I was like really kind of like distraught, because I'm like, man, I've played sports all my life. I'm in college. I just did 4 years of basketball. I was like, what do you mean? Like a back, a back curvature is going to keep me from being in the Air Force. So I chose to join the Olympic weightlifting team. Funny how that works. So I joined Olympic weightlifting with USA Weightlifting back in 2011. And then within my first year, I made my first international team. So it was crazy, because I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know how well I did, but my coach just said, hey, you just made the World University team. And I was just like, okay, what does that mean? He's like, well, you're an international athlete. I was like, okay, cool. Where are we going? And he's like, you're going to Israel. I was like, what? So like my first international anything, I had never left the country, didn't have a passport. It was just like, wait, what? I'm doing this now? Cool. And this is, I get to go to, I called it God's land. I was like, I get to go to God's land. I'm going to Israel. So, I competed in Israel my first year. I went to Russia for the World University Games my second year in weightlifting. And mind you, this is all off of athleticism. I'm just going. And, I went, and it was the most amazing experience I had ever experienced. And I asked one of our Olympians, his name is Kendrick Ferris. Now he's a 3-time Olympian for USA weightlifting. At the time, he had only gone to Beijing. So I asked him, I'm like, well, what's the difference between World University Games and the Olympics? He was just like, it's exactly the same. He said the only difference is like there's a lot more media, there's a lot more press, there's a lot of other distractions that happen when you go to the Olympic Games. But he was like, it's the same exact format. You get to stay in a village, you have venues, you have opening and closing ceremonies, you have all these events that you can do, these excursions that you can go on. And he was just like, this is where you practice. So I was just like, okay, cool. So like in those moments, I'm like learning, what it's going to take to become an Olympian. I'm like going to similar like venues and events where not just university athletes are able to compete, but Olympians, world champions, international medalists, like anyone that has competed at the highest level in their countries and then were selected, but you also had to be a university student, you were able to compete at that Universiade games. So like, that was like the spectacular part. I'm like, okay, cool. I get to be a part of something and also learn what I'm going to need to do, later when I make it there. So I did weightlifting for 8 years. I made my last international team for weightlifting in 2017. And that's when I realized, it was after an injury, but that's why I realized, I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to make it as a weightlifter. I was like, I love this sport, but I was like, I have ambitions. So I kept like kind of looking around at what other sports I could kind of start competing for. And so I joined there was a scouting camp called the Next Olympic Hopeful Scouting Camp. And it was kind of like sponsored-ish by like the USOPC, the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee, and also NBC. So they held the scouting camp here at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. It was like a 3-day camp. There were 6 different NGBs there, national governing bodies. Those are the federations that each sport has. So there were about 6 sports that I could have done. And 5 of those 6 sports wanted me to compete for them. And so they told me, hey, come out, we have this rookie camp, we'll see what you have, pushing on our track. So I came out and we had rookie push champs. I won rookie push championships. They're like, well, hey, we have nationals coming up in a month. We want you to come back out and compete against the national level athletes. I came out and I won nationals. And they're like, well, hey, next month we have team trials. If a driver wants to race with you, you have a max of 2 races that you can do. Well, three pilots wanted to race with me. And I raced two of the national team races. And I had the fastest push times out of both days. And then I also set a new push standard for upcoming brakemen to come in because I had pushed really well. Apparently I had pushed faster than what someone had did at a World Cup level at the same track. So for them, they were just like, shoot, she's able to push. And that put me on a national team. So I went straight to World Cup level. I didn't compete on a North American Cup. I think we had like 2 races, but it wasn't like an actual circuit. So I was never on the circuit. We did 2 races just to kind of prepare for the World Cup in Whistler, Canada. And then we went straight to Latvia for our first World Cup. So I competed nationally, internationally. I've medaled, several times on a World Cup level. I have a World Cup gold. I am an international record holder at this point. And this was my first Olympic team. Undefeated national champion. I also have the start record, I think, in our newly built start house. So that was pretty cool that I could do last summer going into this season. And then this season, Olympic year, I made my first Olympic team in 4 years. And then I was able to race with one, like now, because of medaling bronze in the 2-woman event. Alana is my pilot. Alana Myers-Taylor is my pilot. She is now the most decorated Black female athlete in winter sports with 5 Olympic medals. So that was, it's pretty awesome for, like us to achieve that and like her to have like these accolades of like, she is a beast at the start. She is an Olympic medalist and she keeps defying the odds. And then here I am, I'm just like, hey, you know what? I want to match that same energy. I want to be the fastest brake woman in the world. I want an Olympic medal. I want to go to the games. And, honestly, like I was able to achieve all those things by just being persistent and just continuing down the path of like making sure I have a plan for myself, a 4-year plan, and then like scooting it back every time like a year would pass. I'm like, okay, now what's that extra year going to look like? What's that next year going to look like? And, with that, pretty much like the termination, I guess, ended up with a bronze medal. And, it was hard work. My pilot caught COVID on the same flight that I was on. So it was just crazy. And she overcame it. Like her whole family was in China with us. And, I'm talking to him like, hey, I was in the same position, but I didn't have COVID. And I was like, I know how you feel. I was like, and my situation happened before the season had even started, right before Push Champs. And I was just like, I had to quarantine. We had a mandatory quarantine for 10 days. And I was like, this is stupid. I didn't have COVID, but, the world was trying to figure out if the vaccinations worked or not. And it was like, well, the people that had the vaccine already, they didn't have to stay in quarantine. All they had to do was test out once. And then if they test negative, they could just go out and all they had to do was wear a mask everywhere until they did their second COVID testing. Well, for me, I tested negative and along with 2 other people, but they said, well, hey, since you don't have a vaccination, you have to stay in quarantine. And since you're also on the 2nd floor, you also can't go in the hallway. So I was like, wait, what?
They're trying to stop you out here.
When I tell you that window was looking real nice.
She on a roll and trying to stop her.
It was brutal. And like, I argued it down and I was telling her, I was like, it doesn't make sense. You know, like the other 2 people in quarantine are doing the same. And luckily, one of the guys, like he was able to say, well, hey, you know, like you guys are testing us, you know, like this person had, like the person that had COVID, he had COVID, but everyone else that he was around didn't have COVID. So none of us tested positive except for the one person that already had it. And, you know, so we ended up saying, well, what's the incubation period? I was like, we're in this situation 3 days after the fact. And we're like, this doesn't make sense. So we ended up being able to get our quarantine released by like a day, a day or 2, I think day and a half or something like that. But we still had to stay in until, you know, like, cause our badges wouldn't work. So if we left our room, we'd be locked out. So I had sprint testing that following day. I had the 3rd fastest sprint times. And I was the only one that actually did a 2-foot start, falling start. So it was like you stand 2 feet close together, you're on the block, and then you fall and go. Everyone else did a staggered start where they're like this, we're going to fall and we're going to go. So it was a little bit more admirable, apparently, to the coaches that actually did a real bobsled start. So I kind of got a few points there. 2 days later, you know, we had push championships, and I'm just like, you know, telling myself, whoever I beat, I was like, I don't want to hear it because I've been in quarantine. You guys have been able to train, you're eating, you're good, you have sunlight, you know, you have room to move around. Whether it's like I had 9 meters to do sprint drills. So it was like probably like less than the size of this room, just trying to do like sprint drills. I was like, let's go for quickness, not for distance.
Yeah.
But I told my driver, I was like, this is what I experienced. I was like, for you, I was like, you finally get to rest. I was like, you have a family, you're used to taking care of everybody. You know, finally you get to sleep because you say, hey, you have a baby and that's why you don't sleep that well. And I'm just like, well, look, I was like, I know it's tough, but you finally get to sleep. So she just was like, you know, I just told her, look around. I was like, your room is filled with blessings. And once you start realizing what those blessings are, like your recovery equipment, your eating, your strength equipment, like you have weights there, like you have a bed, you have a laptop, you have internet, you have your phone. I was like, all these things, I was like, those are blessings. I was like, because you could be in a situation to where you didn't have any of those things. So I guess she took that and whatever else that everyone else was trying to like hype her up and like keep her positive with. And she took that and she went into sliding for the monobob races and did really well, got silver. USA got 1st and 2nd in the monobob races. And then with the 2-man races, we got bronze. So at the end of the day, like we just, you know, it all kind of came together and, you know, it's just like, you know, kind of let God do his thing, you know, like pray on it, work on it, make sure you're doing your part. And then like say, hey, you know what, we're here. So, you know, like we can keep like making excuses, or we can just like level up and, and go out there and handle it. So that's where we were in China, and it was awesome.
That's great, man. Congratulations on everything.
Yes.
Like, what's the, you know, because a lot of times people don't understand just like the preparation that goes behind being where you guys were at to get to where you guys were and winning that. What was the preparation like? Or what do you believe preparation is key? Or what could you share with people that's listening that's like just to let them know what it takes, the type of mentality that it takes to get to where you're at?
Oh, I mean, I firmly believe that you have to plan for success. Some people will just kind of like wait for it to happen and be like, you know, or, you know, like, well, a miracle's coming, but you're not working for the miracle. I firmly believe that if you're working towards something, those things are going to come because you're searching for it and you're looking for ways to actually make it happen, as opposed to just kind of like, all right, cool, I'm gonna just pray on and I'm gonna sit back. Like, come on now, God can't do all the work. Like, you gotta like show him that
Mhm.
you trying to do these things and that you really want it in your heart. So like planning for success, I think is like the biggest thing, the biggest key to victory that you can give yourself. I plan for it all the time. Like I said, I had a 4-year plan, whereas some people only had a 2-year plan or a 1-year plan, and they don't really know what they're going to do the next year. But for sports in general, like I love competing. And you know, with bobsled, it was a very new sport. It was very different. It's a winter sport. Never did a winter sport. I'm cold all the time. I hate being cold. And it was just like, well, how can I maximize my performance in these conditions? Like, what can I apply from my past to help me in this present time? So like I played basketball. So I was like, okay, cool. I took 8 years off of sprinting and stuff, sprinting, jumping, change of direction, you know, stuff like that you do in basketball, change of speed, change of direction. And I took 8 years off. I'm like, okay, I know how to do all those things. It's just now teaching myself how to be better at them in a forward motion. And then with weightlifting, I learned a lot of like mental stability. And when I like to this day, I talk to like some of my older friends, and it's like they still kind of have like this mentality of like that they can't do something, or you know, they're struggling to figure out how to do something. And I really just feel like it's just something that you have to like really experience yourself and like really get down mentally and ask yourself, what is wrong, what is right, and how can you better yourself? Like, what is holding yourself back? Like, what are the things that are holding yourself back? I mean, I don't talk about a lot of stuff from, you know, my past. I'm like, but I had issues growing up. I struggled talking to people. You know, I was super shy. Like, but if I got around people that I knew, like I talked to them, you know, like it was all these things. Like I had self-doubt, but I also knew that I was really capable of doing whatever it was in front of me. So it was like the littlest things could get me down, but it was just like also no one was really there to kind of pick me up. So as I grew older as a weightlifter, I got to really experience those mental stability moments where I'm like cheering myself on, where I'm hearing my coach say, hey, you're strong, you can do it, like push through it, stuff like that. A lot of people don't think about when they think about weightlifting, but Olympic weightlifting is very much like that. You're pushing yourself to be better than you were the day before. And you're also lifting heavy weights above your head. You can look at that as like, man, I got all this weight on my shoulders, or like, man, this situation is heavy. But you know what? When you go in the weight room, guess what you're doing? You're lifting that weight above your head to your waist or whatever, and you're pushing yourself to say, hey, you know what? I can do this. This feels easy. You know what? Let me go up a little bit. You know what? This feels easy now. I can do it for 5 reps. You know what? What's my 1 rep max? So like those little bits of things that you're doing as you're, preparing for something, is just like, okay, dang, I used to lift only like 20 kilos. Now I'm lifting like 100 kilos, or for instance, I was only lifting 5 pounds, with dumbbells. Now I'm lifting 20 pounds. Like, man, I wasn't like that at first, but those micro things that you can do actually help you for the long run. So it's like, you got to figure out what's keeping you from achieving greatness. And that's what I push myself to do all the time. Like I could have said, hey, I have scoliosis. This is going to keep me from, competing or doing anything. Cause like people told me, hey, you know what, you might not make it that far because your back's hurt. I'm like, well, what does that have to do with my legs? What does that have to do with my drive to be better? I mean, there's people that have injuries, they have amputations. We have a whole Paralympic team full of people that have been in worse situations than us. And look at them. They're 5-time Olympians, 4-time Olympians, 3-time Olympic champions. Like there's always levels that you can reach for yourself to help better yourself and the people around you. And I always kind of tell myself like, hey, you know what? If someone else can do it, I can do it. And if I can do it, someone else can do it. And they can be inspired. Because if I'm not pushing myself to be my best, I'm not helping the next person that's actually watching. So these are also the things that I look at. I'm like, well, how can I show people like, hey, you're capable of much more than you think. So things, apply those, and I kind of say, well, hey, what do I need to reach the next level? Okay, cool. What's next? I'll start a business. Okay, how do I do that? And it's just kind of going step by step. And once you do that and kind of learn how like just making a plan and like following through with it instead of just do this, like actually set yourself up for success and challenge yourself. Well, hey, you know what? I said I was going to do this, so I'm going to do it. So kind of how I look at everything.
Yeah. Man, like Like, I'm so happy that we are talking to you, Sylvia. Oh my God. Like, congratulations again, like Jamie said, like, because this is big, like really big. Do you mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 32 years old.
Oh, wow. And like, when did you actually like start knowing that you actually wanted to do sports? Because I know you said that you play multiple sports. Like, what got you into sports in general?
I feel like I always knew I was going to be in sports. It's kind of like when you grow up, you just kind of know what you want to do in a way, like, but you don't know how you're going to do it, but you just kind of know, like, man, I really like doing this. So for me, like, I always knew I was very athletic. I love moving around. I love running, jumping. Heck, I love climbing trees just for the fun of it with my brother. I love jumping off of stuff. Like, I love challenging myself as a kid. Like, man, how fast can I sprint? Man, like there's this other girl that she's real fast. Like, can I sprint faster than her? Like it's like those little things. And like, I always loved computer science, but I always loved athletics. So for me, it was more of just like, okay, what do I want to do, and to what extent? And we grew up, we kind of watch TV. There's the Olympics, and I'm just like, wow, there's people that are like doing, like all these fantastic things. And I was like, wow, they're representing their country. I was like, man, I want to do that. So it's like, you start seeing stuff and you're just like, man, I want to do that. How can I get there? And, like I'm doing different sports, and I'm noticing, I'm like, I'm really good at a lot of things. And for me, it was like, because how I think I'm very technical, I like thinking things through. And it, like, for me, it was just like, okay, well, which sport should I do? Like, I don't know how to do it, like, okay, I can do baseball, cool, or softball at the time or whatever, cool. I can do soccer. I really like soccer. I mean, I love running, but then my dad was like, well, here's this basketball, and I'm just like, okay, like, so it was like, here's this direction, go play basketball, type of thing. And I think because it was, like, it was the WNBA came out. There's an opportunity for women to play, like professionally in America. So like, that was one of the biggest things that was happening. So like, you kind of start growing up, but then I noticed, I'm just like, well, I know this isn't necessarily my dream, because when people would ask me, hey, you want to play for the WNBA one day? I'm like, yeah, I'll play, cool. Like, so I was just starting to kind of like go along with it, but like, I could see my potential, I'm really good, I'm jumping out the gym, like I'm quick and all these things, but it was like, it felt like it wasn't for me. It felt like it was for other people. And I think that's the difference between me playing basketball and then me doing weightlifting. I chose weightlifting. I knew what was going to come with, like, I had it during my adulting years, like fresh out of college. Now I'm working in the work world, so it's with me, and I chose it. And, no one had to force it on me to say, well, here's this path. Like, I mean, there was people saying, hey, you should join weightlifting, but I went and spectated a competition, watched someone try to break an American record, which I'd never seen ever in basketball. And I'm like, man, I want to do that. I mean, he missed it, but sure, like, I was like, shoot, like, I want to do that one day. And it was inspiring. And it was like, man, I think I want to do weightlifting. And it wasn't like, it wasn't a hard decision, because I think by that time it was like, I was kind of like, basketball had kind of like, it had run its course. I got as much as I could out of basketball. I had a 4-year scholarship. So I didn't have to pay for school for 4 years. And that's just like, a lot of people don't have that luxury, but, like, I was able to do that. But I also had opportunities to play for Team USA when I was in high school. I had 2 opportunities. And, when I think back, it made me a little upset at first, obviously not now, because I'm, Olympic medalist and stuff, but, like, when I would think about it, it would make me a little upset, because I'm like, man, I had 2 opportunities to play for Team USA, and my parents said no. And I was just like, why would they do that? We had one state in my high school, and like, offers was like rolling in. And I'm just like, hey, I have this opportunity to play in Australia. Can I play? They're like, no. And I'm like, but it's Australia. Because like, for me, at that moment, I'm searching for something that's going to help me grow and love the sport even more. Like, give me something that I'm going to choose that like I want to do. And like, within, like, I know you guys are technically my sponsors. So, hey, let's sponsor me. Like, forget the AAU stuff. I was like, let's go play overseas. Like, that's what I want to do. And like, those 2 opportunities, they were like, no. And I'm like, well, shoot, what am I here for? So like, I was like, well, I guess I'll just graduate, high school, and, kind of, then graduate college and see how it goes. Maybe I'll play overseas then. But like, at that point, it was like, well, I met a Colombian weightlifting team. It was the first team that I met that was international athletes. They're all Indian. So I was just like, when I walked past the gym windows and I saw a whole room of Black people, and I was just like, wow. Like, and it touched me because I was just like, you know, like you don't see that and not in weightlifting. Like, you know, like since I had left basketball, like I hadn't seen that. And I'm just like, wow, this is cool. I was just like, wow, those are Black people. But then you have to remember, it's like, well, they're also from a different country. When we think about the United States, we classify people Black, white, Mexican, Irish, you know, like we don't even say people that are born in America that they're just American. Like we have to classify them for some reason. And it's like, it's the dumbest thing to me. But other countries, you just say, oh, they're French, they're Colombian, they're Spanish. They're like, that's what you say. You don't say, oh, they're Black Colombian. Wait, what? No, like you just say that they're from, you know, a certain country, and it might be different in their particular countries, but that's what we do for them. We're just like, oh yeah, they're Colombian. So I got this different country, all elite athletes, all training for Pan American Games. And I'm just like, wow, they're so strong. And there's this girl, like, I mean, I don't know it in pounds, but she's like, for instance, I'm like 72 kilos. And this girl's like, I think she was competing as a 58, and she's clean and jerk. Like I thought it was a clean and jerk, but she did a clean and press, which is cleaning it to your shoulders and then just doing like a push press. She did that with like 113 kilos. And I'm just like, I weigh 72, you know, 71, 72 kilos, and I can't even do 90 with a press. I don't even think I've yet to do 90 kilos in a press. Like that's how good she was. And I was just like, wow. And I was just like, they look just like me. And I was immediately inspired. So it's like these journeys, like I've had opportunities to do great things. In weightlifting, I had an opportunity to probably even be a good candidate for 2016. But because like my just mental stability and just my understanding of what needed to happen, how great I could be, like where I was as an athlete in comparison to everyone else, like no one told me, and I also didn't ask. So that's the problem that a lot of people don't, that they do. They don't ask questions, and then they just go along with stuff. So because I didn't ask questions, I didn't do my research on weightlifting, I just go into the sport like, oh yeah, sure, my coach is coaching me. Like he wasn't. I love the guy to death, but he wasn't. And 2.5 years, 3 years passed, still doing the same crappy technique that got me on my first 2 international teams. And now I'm no longer making teams because everyone's technique is that much better than mine. And I'm not able to progress as fast. So, you know, the coach that I have right now, like he took me aside. He was like, you're doing it wrong. and sometimes you need those people to tell you that. Like you need some people to say, hey, you're doing it wrong. Like not everyone that can tell you that is correct, but sometimes they are when you're in your beginning phases. And you have to figure out the why. And so Zygmunt was able to tell me why certain movements are going to be beneficial for my future, why I should do front squats when, you know, I'm clearly sucking and doing a full clean. It's like, well, if you do front squats, you'll be a lot comfortable doing a full clean because you're going to be used to being in the bottom position. You're catching the bar up here, but you're riding the bar all the way down here. You're wasting energy. He was like, if you just catch it here and then stand up, he was like, it's easy. And I was just like, wow, no one told me that. I'm mad no one told me that. He's like, you could be a world champion. And in that moment, I was just like, shoot, I could have been a world champion, man, you know, and I'm excited. I'm just like, man, please, Zygmunt, teach me. I was like, can you help me? I was like, I want to be a world champion. I want to be Olympian, but I need help. And that's what people don't do also. They don't say, hey, I need help. Yeah. And I told him that. And he was just like, yes, I'll help you. And he's Olympic champion of the 1972 games as a weightlifter for Poland. So he was all about it. I'm just like, yes, you know, you find you that one person that like got your back, that will support you, that will tell you, hey, you can do better, or hey, you know what, you're doing really great, keep going. Like those types of people, that motivation, like that takes you as far that it'll take you further than what you've ever imagined. I mean, to this day, not to this day now, because like I said, we just won some hardware, but even going into my 4th year in bobsled, 3rd and 4th year at bobsled, people are still questioning my coach's decisions with the weightlifting. And I'm just like, he's an expert. I was like, I don't doubt him. I was like, I've been training with him since 2015. I was just like, his programming is like next to none. No one can really duplicate Zygmunt's programming because he's just that good. And it's specifically programmed for me. I was just like, I'm not getting rid of this guy. I know y'all say, hey, maybe he's not good because he's not a bobsledder, he's not a sprinter, he's not strength and conditioning. But I was like, you know what? I don't need that. I was like, I have a sprint coach right there. I have a very experienced weightlifting coaches right here in my corner, and I'm controlling my push training. So I was like, I'm the middle person. I was like, if anyone can say they don't need someone, I feel like it should be me. And, it was constant doubt, like even this year. And, at the end of the day, we were able to get it done. We made changes to a program that I was already in a peaking phase for, which was very difficult, but, we did it. And not many people can say that and say, hey, you know what? I knew I wanted to do this when I first started. I knew I could make it when I first started, but I'm here. So like for me in bobsled, once I saw my competition and then look back on like, everything that I had been through and where I was at that moment, I was like, oh yeah, I was like, I can make the Olympic team and I can definitely medal because we have people that have done it before. And it was like, I have something to reach for and it's not impossible. So it was like, just plan properly, don't get hurt, don't do anything stupid, and perform and you'll be successful. And those are the things that I did. And that's a reason why a lot of people didn't make the Olympic team this year, is because they didn't plan properly, they weren't healthy, they didn't perform, those types of things. It's like, you kind of destroy yourself. You got to show up. Some people showed up at the very end of, like the quad, and it was like, well, you just missed out on like the last 2 years of very, very important things. So it's like, hey, I can't knock anyone's, ability to go for it when they feel like they can. But I feel like, I went from it from the start and I stayed in there from the very beginning. And at the end of the day, it was me and Alana on podium for the 2-woman event. So that was a moment that I'll probably never forget, because we also kind of continued history. So a little history with bobsled for the women's bobsled team. The women's bobsled team has always medaled at the Olympic Games since 2002. And by us competing and winning bronze, we kind of continue that legacy. And some situations were very similar to me and Alana, where, the two people they haven't raced together, like either all year or most of the season. And like, it's like those types of moments where it's just like, man, you got to figure it out. You got to figure it out, and you got to figure it out quick. And, like Alana had said that she was just like, I've been in this situation before. I think it was her first Olympic Games as a break woman. And I think she had been in something very similar. I think she got bronze at that time. And I was just like, man, I get it. But I was like, we in this situation, my whole program is geared to another pilot. I was like, I have to be very particular on how I train these next 3 weeks. Cause like I said, I was in my peaking phase and I'm like, man, how am I going to do this without getting injured? I was like, because my two main things this year was don't do anything stupid and don't get injured. I was like, you will literally make the team if you just follow those two rules. Don't do anything stupid and don't get injured. I was like, because you already have your performance down, that's fine. You're working on other stuff with one of the pilots, that's fine. Everyone knows this, but don't get injured because you are replaceable. So it's like, figure it out. Figure it out quick. Yeah, it was real tough for me. Like I was getting full deep tissue massages before competition and on race day. Like that's how bad it became, just because my were in a particular state to do something different from what I was trying to force it to change to do with the new pilot. Alana is able to get the sled going really fast. She has that history of breaking start records, setting start records. Like that's her thing. That is literally one of her biggest legacies as a pilot at this point. She's done it as a brake woman. She's done it as a pilot. I've been able to do it as a brake woman, but not as a pilot, but I've also been our #1 brake woman for the last 3.5 years. So it was like, okay, how do I do this? I feel really bad. I'm getting cramps in ways where I know this could lead to an injury. And I was just like, screw it. Let's just do a deep tissue massage on race day. I was like, I can't afford to push slow. I can't afford for us to like lose time at the start. I was just like, we gotta do it. And normally you wouldn't do something like that because your muscles would get too loose, too soft, and you need that little bit of like tightness to kind of be like, okay, I'm good for competition. But when you get those types of massages, it really gets deep and it loosens up the muscle to the point where like your performance isn't going to be good. So for me, I was just like, I'm past the point. I'm past the point. I was like, if I don't do this, I was like, I will probably like really be hurting after this. And it was because it was like immediate cramps. And I was like, that usually doesn't happen. When you have great programming, you usually don't feel sore either. So it was like the type of program that I'm on, I'm never sore. And I'm just like, oh, this isn't soreness. This is like sharp, painish, like Charlie horse-ish stuff. It was bad. Like it was bad. But like I said, we figured it out. And thank God.
Yes.
Thank God. Thank God we did.
That is just so amazing. Like, well, congratulations again and keep going. Keep going. Because you said 32 and you've accomplished all of that. Like just the beginning.
Yes,
What's
dope.
around your
This thing?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
What is that?
Oh, this is my Olympic medal. It's bronze for the 2-woman event in Beijing, China. Hard fought win, I must say, because it was a
journey.
tough
Let me
competition.
ask you, did you ever feel like, you know, when you came across challenges, because you went through a lot of transitions on your journey, right? And have you ever felt like you went through challenges to get to like, or what challenges did you have to overcome? Did you ever feel like you wanted to quit at any point on the journey of getting to where you're at right now? Just
I wouldn't say I would want to quit. It was more like, how can I be in a position to achieve my goal? So for me, it wasn't quitting. It was like, look, you know, there's tons of sports out there. You know, choose one, but it's like, well, which one should I choose? You know, and so it was like more so like, which sport should I choose? How can I get the help? How can I do the transfer over? But then there was a next Olympic hopeful. So I was able to use that scouting camp to be seen by other coaches from other federations to where they were just like, man, you know what? We want her. Like right now, the boxing coach, he's here right now in Colorado Springs. And I've told him, I was like, look, I know I left you hanging a few years ago. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I'll do another sparring session with you, because I was just like, I enjoyed it last time. It's great. I need some cross training. But I mean, there's always been challenges, and you're gonna have that throughout life. And it's about how you actually conquer and get through those challenges. Are you gonna kind of like sit back, pout, you know, say, hey man, this, I mean, you can say, like I say it all the time, like, man, this situation sucks. But at the same time, I'm also trying to figure out how can I be successful in getting out of that bad situation? You know, how can I change my mindset? I think mindset is everything. Keeping positive mindsets are big. But also something that I didn't have when I was in basketball was a sports psychologist. I think back then in the day, it was like, you know, it's kind of like laughable or frowned upon or whatever, judgmental, if you're talking to somebody about, you know, whatever it was, a psychologist, sports psychologist, doesn't matter. So like I feel like it was kind of frowned upon or like talked down of like, man, this person's seeing a psychologist. But like now, because people are a little bit more focused on the mental health piece of everything in life, it's not judged as hard. Because I remember Ron Artest, you know, I think they won like a championship or something. I think it was with the Lakers. And he, you know, all he kept saying was just like, thank you. I want to thank my psychologist. And like, you know, I remember some people was laughing, like, don't get me wrong. Like he said it like 20 times. He was like, okay, dude, we get it. But when he was saying that, it was like, I could kind of see where he, like, as time progressed, see where he was coming from. I'm like, man, thank you for my psychologist, because I didn't have like those moments to just talk about something where someone's not going to be like, man, you know what? So-and-so did this. So, you know, and then it's like, man, I have like no privacy. I got people judging me. And like, you don't have to worry about that. And it's like, you shouldn't have to feel those things in the first place, but because you're able to do it outside of sport or outside of like your normal social circle, you're able to kind of like get a different perspective on things.
Mhm.
And so that's what I've been able to experience as a bobsled athlete. Like I didn't have that weightlifting either. You know, I talk to friends like, man, I got this problem. You know, that's cool. But then when you have someone that's completely outside of that loop, then you're able to get something different. And so you're able to respond different. You're able to kind of like build back differently where like, man, okay, this situation sucked, but you know what? I just talked through it. I got this different perspective. You know what? I'm gonna go handle it. So it's I've had challenges, and to this day, like I'm able to talk about certain stuff, and I'm just like, wow, you know, I've grown. I've grown, and I'm able to see it, you know, when I speak to people, and I'm also able to hear it when I'm listening to conversations from other people. I'm just like, wow, you know what? I used to have those issues. You know, I was like, oh, I used to be just like that. Or like I used to have that same mindset or whatever it was. But I'm just like, you know what? Now I don't, because I've been working on it. It's something that I've been trying to work on, you know, my entire life. Like I tell people, like I'm starting to tell people these days, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I suffered from depression back in the day. I was just like, I mean, I had home issues. I had, you know, sports issues, like, you know, throughout the basketball years, like especially going through high school. I was like, I'm pretty sure I was concussed most of the time in high school. And it's like, dang, I was like, but we didn't talk about it until you got to college. And I didn't actually start feeling better in a certain sense, like until I got to college. I was a little bit more clear-headed. And I'm just like, wow, I guess that makes sense. That's probably why I was like, whiteouts, blackouts, dizzy spells, you know, like passing out, like those types of things. Like some of the stuff was happening on the court and I just didn't say anything. And I'm like, mood swings. I was like, well, shoot, that makes sense. I was like, well, dang. I was like, okay, so this is the athletic stuff, but I also know I was having some issues at home. So it's like, well, shoot, okay, now I'm in college, let's fix it. You know, and so that was pretty much my whole mission when I got into college. I'm like, let's fix it. Let's see what's going on. Let's pray about it. You know, Jesus had to save me a few times. And I'm just like, I'm cool with it. And then, you know what? Right after that, I went to Israel. And I'm like, wow, this whole situation kind of came together. It's like, thank you, Jesus. I know my path now. Like we sat down and we worked on it, but it was also something I wanted to do for me. And when you start doing stuff that's going to make you happy and make you successful and like not think about what everyone else thinks or what everyone else feels about you, like then you can start taking off from there. So it's like after that, like there's so much stress that like is alleviated. You're just like, that's not my problem. You know what? That's not even my business. And then you stop inviting stress into your life, unnecessary stressors, and then you're able to grow from that. So like everyone's gonna go through problems, everyone's gonna have struggles, but it's like, how are you able to conquer those moments of struggle? Like, are you sitting back and letting it happen, letting it manifest? Or are you saying, no, I'm not gonna stay in this state of mind, I'm gonna keep pushing? So like, it's growth and development. And then knowing yourself, knowing the situations that's gonna either better you or like kind of keep you at a standstill. Because there's always somebody that wants to pull you down. Always, you know, like someone that doesn't want you to succeed in life. But you have to remember what's gonna make you happy, what's gonna help you grow as a person. Are you gonna let people get you down, steal your energy, steal your joy, or are you going to be fruitful for, you know, whatever you have to offer the world, but then say, you know what, I also have to take care of me. So it's like a mental thing, like, and once you find that thing that like really keeps you down or keeps you from like moving forward, you will have the most freedom that you have ever felt. You're like, man, you know what, I can do anything, you know, and it's just because you believe that. And once you can believe that, it's like, who's gonna stop you?
Yeah.
You?
No.
Now, I think you said a lot of good nuggets to this point,
Yeah.
but I think you just saying that was probably, like I dissected a lot of that stuff, but I think what you just said now probably was the best thing you could have said, because I think a lot of people get it confused when they think about the mental. They always put the mental second, and they try to do the best. So say, for instance, like you're good at everything you do, but if your mind wasn't right, and take it way back, you could have stopped when you got refused from going to the Air Force. And so if you didn't take that next chance and that pivot, where would you be at where you're at now? And so that's, I think a lot of people, like, that's why I said, I think what you just said is something people need to kind of like work on in the beginning, rather than, because you can be good at a lot of things, but if your mind's not right, then you can eat that good thing you're good at can be gone in a second.
Yep.
And so just like your what you say, your symptom or whatever that the Air Force didn't let you in.
Scoliosis, yeah.
Yeah. So if you didn't have that mindset that you have now or that you had in the past, you would not be where you're at. And so I think a lot of people would have stopped at your point from all getting told no from the Air Force, being told no to going to Australia and everything like that. I think that's why I said that. I think that's the best thing that you could have said, because people get it backwards. They want to be good first and then let the mindset come second.
That's true. And mindset is key. And especially with the transitions that you made on your journey, because and it's so dope, I think, because a lot of times, I know for me, I just stuck with one sport. So to see you go do so many sports and just the diversity in your ability, just, you know, utilizing the gifts that God gave you, I think is super dope. And it takes the mindset to be able to endure that because you're adjusting. You know what I mean? You're adapting and adjusting every time you transition over to a new sport, into a new thing that you're doing. And just to see what you did with weightlifting, because I was following you with that, and then to see you, you know, just in the Olympics and winning, it's just like, wow. And then I don't know, it's just mind blowing to me, because
I think it's powerful, to be honest with you.
It is powerful.
Because a lot, like I said, a lot of people they give up so quick, and she never gave up. And so that's why I was like, I think that's a big key factor that she just said, because I don't know where you got it from as far as like your ability to never give up, but I think more people need to have it.
Yeah, I would agree. Because like I said, I had several opportunities. Like I said, like I could have played like basketball. I could have played for Team USA. That opportunity came and went. And, you know, I wasn't, you know, knowledgeable about those Team USA sports. I didn't know how to do stuff. In basketball, there's so many people, and then there's not really levels to like do anything. It's like, well, how do you make this team? I don't know, like try out, I guess. How many points do I need? I don't know, just, I guess, look really good in front of whoever, you know? So there wasn't any like real, like kind of set in stone, like milestones. It was just like, go out there, go play. And like, that's also the type of coaching that we were receiving mostly back in the day. It was like, go out there, go play, go win something. And, you know, we were kind of told some stuff of like how to play the game, but we weren't told like how to achieve certain things, how to like make those wins, how to, you know, handle certain things, how to handle stress. Like, I think we had the basic conversations, but it was still very new to where coaches didn't necessarily get too technical with things. They just said, hey, just go out and be athletic. You know, and it's very different. And then in weightlifting, obviously I had another opportunity to, you know, make an Olympic team. I had, you know, I was already at this stage, I'm like able to play, to compete for Team USA, which is great. But I'm like, man, you know, I came in with the same mentality that I had beforehand. So that kind of held me back from being able to be greater sooner, or like better sooner. So that was an opportunity in weightlifting. You know, and then when I get into bobsled, I look at it as my third opportunity to like play, you know, to be in a team sport, being, you know, Team USA oriented, compete for my country. Like, this is my third opportunity. And it's like, I'm at a point where I could, you know, I can make the decision to switch sports, or I can stay in the sport, or I can stay in the same discipline. I'm trying to learn how to drive a bobsled at this point. And, you know, that's like a completely different beast, you know, like you have to be very, you know, like mentally like focused to do these things. You need the hand-eye coordination that you didn't really have as a break woman, you know, like, so you're doing things that's a lot more stressful, a lot more strenuous now than you were your first 4 years. And it's just like, shoot, you know, I'm 32. Can I do it? Yes. Because what do I look at? I look at those 8 years that I took off of sprinting. I was like, I just gave myself 10 years. So like, so I was like, I'm very healthy. I like compete. Like I, you know, saw the sports med people after the season, you know, I got MRIs done, you know, like I've been taking time off. I'm not achy or sore or anything. Like when people say, man, I stopped moving and everything just started aching. You know what? I stopped moving. You know what? I still feel great. I still feel great, you know, and I'm working from like scratch, you know, like I'm doing things that's going to like make myself stronger for the next 4 years, because it's going to be difficult. Because, you know, the more you use those legs, you know, like that's more wear and tear on your body. And from basketball, what I got from knowledge is protect your knees at all times. Protect your knees, protect your back. Everything else kind of like comes into play after that. But those are the main two: protect your knees, protect your back. So here I am, gotta protect these knees, gotta protect my back. At this point also, you can get a lot of head injuries in bobsled, similar to basketball. So I'm like, man, I've been down this road. And I realized that as soon as I got in this sport, I'm just like, man, this actually feels a little similar to basketball. I was like, you can get pretty messed up. But I was just like, it's not completely a team sport, but it's in the realm of like, you can get seriously injured if you're not careful. So like as a pilot, I'm getting whiplash, my head is bouncing from side to side. I'm just like, sometimes and I'm in a monobob. So like, it's a very different shaped sled. And, like the cowling of the sled, the sides of the sled, they come up a little bit higher. So you hit your helmet on the side of the sled, as opposed to just kind of like getting a whiplash, just hitting your shoulder. So, this last whole month, I'm just like, a couple times you take a hit, you're like, oh my gosh, I still got to drive down the track. It's like, man, it's rough, but it's like, also I'm learning. So it's like, I'm also in that learning stage of, okay, I'm going to take these hits. This is what you signed up for. This is what you asked for. And you still want to do it? You got that question. You don't have to. I mean, you can literally retire. You can do, you can do a different sport. You can say brakeman. You have so many opportunities to do so many different things. So it's like, pick your poison here. Pick your poison.
That's another thing too that you just said. Oh, go ahead, Nate.
No, go ahead. You're okay.
I was just gonna say that's another thing that I like what you just said too. Is you always start off with saying, "Can I do it?" Yes. You don't hesitate like most people. Yeah. Like I know I love it from people to hear it from people, because you said, "Can I do it?" Yes. Instead of hearing that, "Can I do it?" Well, the whiplash gonna happen. All this gonna happen. Like, when we ain't thinking about that, just say, "Are you gonna do it or not gonna do it?" And so I like to hear that from people.
Don't get me wrong. I say all these things. But there is that decision piece. Like, are you gonna continue or not? Yeah. Because I did the same thing with weightlifting. How am I gonna lift weights every day? I was like, that's not normal for me. I was like, not used to doing that. I was like, am I gonna do it or not? So when I would look around the gym and everyone's doing the same thing, it's like, okay, well, maybe it's not that hard if we're all on the same program, if we're doing similar things. So it's like, now you have a like-minded set of people around you, and you're like, okay, cool, it's not that hard. I'm gonna try, because there's people that are doing these amazing things and are competing for Team USA. The first person I asked, I was just like, what are you guys, preparing for? And she was just like, oh, we're preparing for Junior Worlds. I was like, what's Junior Worlds? She's like, Junior World Championships. I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, okay, well, cool. Where's it going to be? She's like, Malaysia. What? I want to go to Malaysia.
How is it traveling? Like, you've been able to travel so much with, just with all the different sports that you've been doing. And we love travel. I know I can't wait to go on another trip. Just how is it going to all these different places that you've been to around the world?
Oh, it's amazing. It's just as amazing as it was when we was in AAU. Like, I loved traveling. Like, I couldn't wait to get out of the house, because that was my thing. I was like, I gotta get out of the house. So like, anytime we were traveling somewhere, I was like, I need to go. What do I need to do to fundraise? How can I help? Like, that's what I was asking Coach Sin and my parents. I was like, I want to do it. I'll do that 2-week trip. We go all the way over there to the East Coast, go to Oklahoma, meet up with some people, and then go to Vegas. I was like, I'll do that whole trip, that 2 weeks. I'm gonna do it. And I was down for the cause, because like, I love to travel. And then with weightlifting, I'm like, you guys going out of the country? I was like, I'm in college. We're all in college. I was like, I've never been out of the country. I've never been to Canada. I've still never been to Mexico. So I've been to Canada now, but I've still never been to Mexico. So I'm just, well, I guess there was a cruise, but I don't really count that. It was an island, so it was a little different. But still, it was like, I'm able to travel now. I'm like, now I got a passport. I was like, now I want to use it. I want to get stamps. And again, now you have these little goals in your mind. I was like, man, I want more stamps in my passport. How can I do that? Well, you know what? I'm traveling with weightlifting. I'm able to compete. I had the chance to go out of the country. I'm going to continue to compete with weightlifting so I can do that. And like now I'm getting better at whatever else I'm trying for. And then bobsled, heck, we have a whole European tour. I've been to Latvia, I've been to Estonia. That was pretty cool. It was very different. I stood on a frozen sea for the first time in my life. Never did that. My teammate actually, her foot went through the ice when we stopped close. Like when we stopped before we got to Estonia, we stopped at the bay of some sea or whatever, and like we were like it was kind of like a lake type of thing, like a bay. And we're taking a photo. She's trying to see how far she can go. Her foot goes in. And it was just like it's very cold out. It was a whole situation. Anyway, so yeah, I've been to Latvia, Estonia, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, Norway just recently. That was interesting. Canada. But I've been able to I've been through these countries, and I've never been to the Czech Republic because they always tell us don't drive through the Czech Republic because our rental cars, they don't have insurance in the Czech. So they're just like, don't go, because if something happens, you're pretty much screwed. So, but yeah, I've been able to travel all these different places. Now I've been to China for the first time. I've been to Taipei as well. I've been to Russia, been to Israel. We kind of drove by the border of Egypt. we were going to go snorkeling in the bay of the Red Sea, and that morning, our cab driver was just like, oh yeah, he was just like, you want to see Egypt? We was like, yeah. He was like, okay, well, Egypt is here. He's like, so we like drive and make a U-turn. He's like, that checkpoint right there is Egypt. And then he's like, those smokestacks way over there across the water. In the distance, that's Saudi Arabia. He was just like, and then across that way, that's Jordan. I was just like, what? So this is cool. I'm just like, I'm kind of getting like, some lessons of geography,
That's cool.
Yeah. You guys should do it. If you haven't traveled, you got to do it. Like, have you guys been out of the country yet or what?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've been out of the country before.
Okay, cool.
I ain't been there, but them getting checked off for sure.
Right, for real. I'm like, ooh, because man, Switzerland, I want to go to Switzerland. A lot of the places that you named, I want to go to. But yeah, traveling is a must for sure.
Yeah, it opens up your eyes to a lot of different things, a lot of different cultures, and you get to see how things are structured in different countries and cultures. And it's like, man, like McDonald's, for instance, European McDonald's is very delicious. I'm just gonna say that because I'm not talking down on anyone, but European McDonald's is very delicious. Like they have a whole signature menu. Now I think they started doing away with their breakfast menus and stuff, their cafe. Like it used to be both. They used to have like the cafe on and popping and a signature menu that has like all these different types of hamburgers and stuff on there. Like they sell chicken wings, like wings. They sell wings at McDonald's there. And I'm like, man, what? 6 wings for what? A few bucks? I'm in. So it's stuff like that. They're like, I have yet to see it here. It's been 4 or 5 years. I'm like, so when we gonna have the signature menu that y'all keep talking about? We're gonna because that barbecue sandwich, I'm waiting for it and I need it in my life, but I only have it when I go to Europe.
That's cool. So what's next? What's next?
Well, I am taking time off. Trying to let my body rest and heal. I just did a driving school without actually training, which was very interesting. So I was just like, I'm not training, I'm not pushing, lifting, or sprinting. I'm just gonna like go slide every day and learn how to drive a bobsled. So that's what I did. So physically, I was able to rest a little bit while also making myself very stiff. We're trying to get all the knots out of my shoulders right now, but taking time off, trying to explore, trying to see family, friends, trying to just relax, take a moment, go out, ever so often, and, just enjoy life. For instance, like my drive, I had to drive from Lake Placid to here, to Colorado Springs. And I visited my family in Philly first. So it was like, I was bound to have like that 27, 30-hour drive that I would normally have across the country. And I had to tell myself, like, literally those, what was it? I left Placid, let's just say before I actually made it here, I had to tell myself those 4 or 5 days, I'm like, it's okay. Like, if you need to stop, it's fine. Like, just stop on the road. Like, find a place, like stop, enjoy something. Like if you're, like you're visiting friends or whatever, like just visit, sit down, have lunch with them instead of just like, hey, I got to get back on the road. Cool. Training's happening in like the day and a half after this, like, so it's stuff like that. It's like, man, I'm not training right now. Like take a moment, like take that time out and just say, hey, it's okay. Like, it's okay. Like you can throw these things away in your storage. You know why? Because you don't need them. It's okay. Like you can drive to go to this particular destination, see your friend in Kansas, to see your family in Philly, and like go out or whatever, have a drink or two, be like, it's okay. Why? Because you deserve this. Like you've been through so much. You planned this entire last 4 years of just like, I'm gonna hit it hard. I know exactly what I got to do as long as I do these things. Like it's like, it's okay. It's okay to enjoy the moment. It's okay to like just take it all in. It's okay to just like tell people like, hey, this is my story. Like, this is what I went through. Like, it's okay to be like, yo, I was actually kind of miserable at this section right before the games. Like, like stuff like that. It's like, it's okay. Like, cause you need to do these things to actually say, hey, you know what? I just lived through this. And a lot of people, they don't know what Olympic athletes or even athletes that pursue the Olympics go through. Like the people that didn't make the Olympic team, like you see me right now, I'm like, I'm happy, I'm like cool, but I'm also like, man, I had a real stressful time. Now, if you take somebody that didn't make the, like they're not on the same wavelength. They're probably a little bit worse because they just invested tons of energy, time, money, their love life, their social life, into trying to make the Olympic team just for that. Like for me, like we race, I push for no more than 5 seconds, maybe less than that. And I jump in the sled. That was as a break moment. Our trips are about a minute long. Like most tracks are a little less than a minute. Here in China, it was like a minute and a second or something like that. So like, I think the track record was like a 101 or something like that. So it's like stuff like that. It's like you invest all this time and energy for that one moment. In weightlifting, we had two lifts, like two of our best lifts, one in a snatch, one in a clean and jerk. You got 3 attempts in a snatch, you got 3 attempts in a clean and jerk, and it combines for your best total. So they take that best of the two and they say, hey, you know what? You are not. So like, that's how that goes. It's like, you spend all this time and energy investing in that one movement to make sure that you're able to make the team, that one total that you're pushing for. Like, because at the end of the day on weightlifting, if you don't make the total for a particular team, then you're not going to make the team. Or if someone outlifts you by Sinclair or whatever, you don't make the team. So like, you could be the best in your weight class, but are you the best in the country? And if you're not the best in the country, you don't make the team. So like, it's a bunch of people that just do it. It's a lot for that one moment to happen. And they give up, they sacrifice a lot. And a lot of people don't see that. And then a lot of people also think that as, athletes for Team USA, we get paid. We don't. Like, we get stipends, cool, but we can't live off those stipends. Like, most of us have a second job or a third job. Most of us will train at night. Like, I started training during the daytime and working in the evenings and at night because it was just that much easier for me to recover. Like, it's stuff like that. It's like, okay, cool, I'm gonna work this, like these 410s, and then I'm also going to train 6 days a week. Man, those times are hard.
I mean, to be great, to get to that level, that's what you got to do. So, I mean, that makes sense, yeah, like you gotta, and then like you were saying, you had to sacrifice a lot to be able to get up and train the way that you did. That's why you win in the way that you are. And
exactly.
And that's what it takes. I mean, it's not gonna be easy, you know what I mean? But like the fact that you persevered through all the obstacles and everything, and then just to be able to like to be able to get to your level, like you said, you had to go through all of that and train the way that you did. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people that I competed with over the last 4 years that didn't necessarily do the same things. Like, now am I scoping and like looking at what they're doing? No, not really. Because it's not about them, it's about me. And that comes back to focus. Like, what are you focused on? Are you focused on what everybody else saying? You focus on what everybody else doing, like what their training regimen is? Like, no, focus on yourself and make sure that you're doing what you need to do to be successful, because you looking at somebody else is only going to distract you from you. you
Yeah.
know, and yeah, so I mean, it's a vicious cycle, and you can either get caught in it, or you can say, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna create my own.
Yeah.
Literally. No, and that's just so crazy that you just keep saying that about, mind your own business, do what is best for you, because that was one of my things this morning that I was just very like, just everything like, do what makes you happy, find out what that is, and just do it. And like, just you said, talking about everything that you've been through, the excuses people give, and then just listening to you, and then the accomplishments. And if people really understand that, just forget the excuses, just say what you are going to do, like you just said. And I know we've been over here really talking, but I got to ask you this question seriously.
What's up?
What does Psalms 46, 1-3 mean to you?
Just being strong, persistent, and just like staying focused. Cause like for me, like I've been through a lot, and I was like, I don't have time to kind of entertain like, everyone else and what they feel about me. So it's just like, just stay strong. Like you're a strong Black woman. You've been through a lot. You literally like, you keep God like with you. Like I remember when I was in elementary growing up, and I'm like switching schools, and like I was very big into praying. And then like, I think there was this one time in third grade where I just realized I wasn't praying over my meals. And it was like, and it kind of like made me feel weird about it. And I was just like, man, I'm around these other people. I don't know what they're going to say. I don't know, if they're going to judge me if I'm praying over my food at lunch, like, so I kind of stopped doing it. And then like, as I grew older, like, I started praying more when I was in junior high, when I started really realizing how like everyone's opinions about certain stuff. So I was like, you know what? I don't have to make a scene. I was like, if I want to pray, I'm gonna pray. I was like, that's the main thing I can do for myself. So it's like, you know what? Stay strong and do the best that you can, and just like stay focused, head down, eyes forward. Don't let those little things just like get you down. It's like, it's not worth it. Your energy is precious, like you're precious. And when I think about everything that I've been through, I'm just like, man, God was here this whole time. I was like, I was here through my elementary school stuff. God was here through my junior high school, college. I was like, man, I got saved. I was like, you know what? And I'm gonna be the first person to tell you this. Like, I was like depressed. And when I woke up, like I had been through a lot, and it was like the biggest puzzle. And you can do it, like everyone has their own vision of how like they go through their struggles and whatever, but it was like the biggest puzzle. And it was like a part of me was just like separated like for years. That's what it felt like. It was like two versions of me. Like one version had been like locked away somewhere, and the other version is just like, yo, I'm out, I'm cool. And then like all of a sudden those two versions of me switched, and I'm just like, yo, I was taking care of this, now like locked over here. And I was like, I don't know how you're gonna handle the world. And it's just like, I learned so much about myself in those moments, in those days, those weeks, those months. And one day, I just woke up. I woke up one morning, the sun was shining. I'm not gonna say I put on my happy face like Beyonce said, but the sun was shining, and I felt joy for the first time. Like I couldn't remember the last time I felt joy. And I was just like, what is this feeling? Like I'm gonna say zero F's in the world about anything else. Like nothing else mattered. It was just like, wow, how can I hold on to this feeling, this moment? I was just like, Jesus, what happened? Like, and I felt whole. I felt strong. I felt like I could just do anything. And I was just happy. I never just like felt those emotions before. I was just happy for no reason. And, like, I tried to like remember, I was like, it was almost like something happened, and I don't even know how I got here. It was like waking up one morning, like, man, how did I get here? And that's what it felt like. I was just like, man. So like the next couple of weeks, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, how did I get here? How did I get here? What happened? And it was just like, and then like, it was kind of like bits and pieces, like, oh yeah, you was going through this. Oh yeah, you was going through this. I'm like, man, I was like, so did I get saved? I was like, I think I just got saved. I was like, if this is what joy feels like, I don't want nothing else. I was like, if I got to walk these lines, Jesus, come on, let's do it. Like, I don't want that dark path no more. Give me the light and fluffy one. I was like, the unnecessary, and then the happy, I'm gonna do the happy one, So it was like, at that moment, like, I really just like, I think I forgave myself. I forgave everyone else. I could see where I was. I knew what I wanted. you know, and like I said, that following year, I literally made my first team for Team USA. And I went to Israel. So I was like, man, this has to be God.
Yeah.
It has to be God.
Yes. I love it because Psalms is one of my favorite books. So like that, I love it. It's just so amazing.
Yeah.
But man, Sylvia, well, first of all, we'd like to end off before we jump off here. Thank you for sharing your amazing story. We also like to end just by giving feedback. All of us leave with some feedback that we want to give the viewers just from tonight's episode. So what's some feedback that you would or just not feedback, but just something that you can, or I guess like a takeaway that you can give the viewers to help them along their journey throughout this week, months to come? Yeah.
I would say first thing is know yourself. If you don't know yourself, find yourself, because you have to start with you first. It's about you and what you want to achieve. Do you want to be regretful by the, you know, like in your later years of life, or do you want to say, you know what, I fulfilled everything that I set my mind to. I did exactly what, you know, I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. Like, did I succeed in some of the things? Maybe not, but at least I tried. Man, that's cool. Remember that time that I did this? So I would say like definitely like know yourself, know your worth, and you know, like ask questions. If you have a problem with something, like if you need help, like just ask people that are knowledgeable, that, you know, like, and if they're not knowledgeable, they could point you in the right direction if you ask the right questions. And I tell people sometimes, I'm like, look, if you ask the right questions, you get the right answers. And, you know, the more people you ask, like the better position you're going to be to actually get to what you want to get to. So I think with those and just making sure you're planning for yourself and your future, you know, like I'm still planning for stuff for myself. Like, man, how am I going to do all these speaking engagements? How am I going to get on these platforms and stuff? Like, how am I going to like, I mean, I was able to speak at the New York Stock Exchange. I was like, that's pretty cool. But like, man, how can I do more of that? So it's like, now I'm asking for certain things and I'm putting myself on this path of like, okay, how can I do these things? Because I wasn't doing it some years ago, but now I'm able to. I must be on the right track. But I think if you just kind of plan accordingly and just like kind of know like, okay, what do I want to do? Okay, cool. How can I, and then just start pursuing it, and give yourself a chance, and like give yourself a chance to either succeed or fail, because at least you're putting yourself out there. And the more that you believe in yourself, other people are going to also start believing in you, because they're also going to be like, man, this person really wants to do this. You know what? I know the right person. Now, this person does these things. This person knows how to do these things. I think I know, hook them up. So it's like now you're creating a network because you believe in yourself. That someone else believe in you. It took me a long time to believe in myself in some ways. Like, yeah, I believe in myself, but my coach, Zygmunt, than I believed in me. And I was like, how can I get here? Because I'm here. Mm-hmm. If I can get here and believe in myself, man, it's a wrap. And you know what? That's what we did. We worked on it. But I also asked for help. So if you're not asking for help, struggling with something because you feel embarrassed, I'm like, don't feel embarrassed, because it's actually respectable that you're actually getting outside of your comfort zone and actually asking for assistance, like it's hard, but again, it's about you and making sure that you're building yourself up, because each time that you ask those questions and make those milestones, like you're becoming stronger as a person, and you begin to learn yourself and learn how you respond to certain situations. And the better you are with responding to certain situations, like the better you're off you're going to be. And you're going to realize, you know what, I can handle this. It's not hard. I can do it. Instead of saying, man, I don't know if I can. Like, stop saying, I don't know if I can in that sense, and just saying, you know what, I can do it if I really want to. So know your wants, know yourself, and just like strive for it. Go for it. Go all out and see what happens. And, if you fall short, okay, but at least you tried, and there's nothing wrong with that. I've done that a few times in life, but here I am. At least I tried. I tried to do bobsled. Here I am. I'm like 32 years old, Olympic medalist. And when everyone was like, man, you should think about retiring, or, oh man, you know what, that's not the right exercise. You know what, you're doing it wrong. You know, like you shouldn't do it like that. Don't use timing eyes. I know we're in a timing sport, but don't use timing eyes, because it's not, you know, it's not normal. It's like, you're not doing things in an optimal way. Like someone else's optimal is not your optimal. You have to find what works best for you.
That's
Yes.
That's what's up. Well, Sylvia, thank you for hopping on.
Yes.
Man, great interviewing you, great hearing your story. The grit that you have, the determination that you have, your mindset, you have a beautiful spirit, very kid-like. I love it. Yeah, I love it. The
Thank
energy
you,
that you
girl.
have, you know what I mean? And just keep doing your thing. Keep doing your thing. And just keep impacting people, just showing other people out there that what's possible, because you know, you're showing what's possible. You're helping the next person see, like, is it possible for me to do this and this? And even if it's making pivots and shifts along my journey, long as one thing that you always kept in mind was the goal. And I think that's so important.
Yeah.
And so just big ups to you, but thanks again for hopping on. Y'all, this is episode 8 of Growth Talk Podcast.
And also, Sylvia, where can the viewers find you?
Yes, where can the viewers find you? Yes.
Oh, let me tell you. So if you don't know, my name is Sylvia Hoffman. You can find me on Instagram at Miss_Sylvia Hoffman. That's MS_Sylvia Hoffman. Same thing on Instagram. I mean, on Twitter, Miss Sylvia Hoffman, all one word. Facebook, just find me by my name, Sylvia Hoffman Athlete, and you can find me anywhere. But if you would like to either, you know, book an appointment, you know, like have me come out, sponsor, donate, anything like that, know my story, I do have a website. It's sylvia-hoffman.com. It's real easy to find. You can find me on Google me. I'm on there. Trust me. If you want to reach out, you know, there's a form that you can fill out, and you can reach out to me if you want to talk about some things. Because I'm into some cool things these days. I'm teaching a little bit. I got a couple of classes, so if you need help with the mental stability piece, I got you. There's a class on that. If you need help with analytical stuff, with technique, with like your weightlifting or sprinting stuff, or even bobsled related stuff, like I have a class on that. If you have questions and you want to like work through different phases of how to be successful, I have a class on that, and it's on Tin Can. So, you know, all these things, like you can find that on Instagram and my link tree. I have it all linked in there. It's easy. Like I said, if you want to contact me, shoot me an email. I'm the one that receives the email. So you're going to get it straight from me, not from somebody else that's like filtering stuff out for me. You get it straight from me. So if you want to connect, let's do that.
Yes.
Yeah, let's go.
Awesome. And we'll have her information in the comment section of the video. So yeah, thank y'all for hopping on and tuning in. We got this thing.
Yeah, pleasure.